I thought it'd be a really good idea to just sort of update each other on sort of some of the goals that we've been saving for, like financially. We've talked a lot about setting goals, tangible goals and stuff, but I'd like to hear for, where you guys have been at. I know you guys recently purchased that couch and hear a little bit about what that sort of looked like, but
Sure.
see what we can sort of glean after having some really tangible talk on that. So does that sound good to you?
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Go for it.
Cool. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, so like last blab we had, Lindsay and I were getting ready to go up to the mountains, set a lot of goals.
Hmm.
And one of the categories we were thinking about or tried to, we didn't actually walk away with any like numerical financial goals of like, hey, we need to set aside, $1,500 for a new couch because we're in the market for a new couch as well. So, yeah, so it was just interesting sort of thinking that through. And then we were doing sort of our monthly budget meeting this past weekend, or pretty much yesterday actually. And, it was like, hey, we were saving for a vacation. Our plan sort of changed a little bit from that to go to more micro vacation. So we were able to take this big pot of money and sort of
Okay.
divide it up a little bit more. But we were just looking at like, hey, like especially a house. We're years away probably from buying a house. But what have your recent thoughts been on housing? I mean, I know you have a transient job and everything, but where are you guys at with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, the way we talk about home ownership is it is something that we will, eventually do. But due to my job, as a Army officer right now, I'm not in a position to buy a home
Uh-huh.
because I move every 2 to 3 years. So one thing that we've aimed to do is we still want to continue to save for a future home that we're going to buy. So we put money away every month towards that goal. But for us, we don't necessarily have the timing of when that goal is going to be, or when we're going to,
Yeah.
use that money. Because for us, it could be 3 years or it could be, 8 years. If it's 8 years, that'd be great because we'll have more money to put down on a home. And I tell you, one thing that we've done recently is we've actually changed that up just a little bit because of the discussions and the kind of thinking that we've done about owning versus renting a home.
Uh-huh.
Instead of just saying this money is for home purchase, what we're doing is we're putting all of our anything that does not have a direct purchase tied to it. So a direct, a thing that we know we're going to buy one day. Anything that doesn't have that, I just call it big pile of money. I mean, that's the
Okay.
category. That's the category we have for it, and we put that in there. And my intent is to put that into like, an index fund,
Okay.
and then to use that for long-term investment as far as 5+ years is probably realistic, but maybe not that entire amount will go to one specific thing. So there may be, a large dollar amount purchase that we're going to do in the future. But one of those is a house.
I see.
But at the same time, I don't know. Like I say, I'm not going to buy a house right now because I'm in the Army. But if I got out of the Army tomorrow, I wouldn't necessarily buy a house, tomorrow either, because I don't know what's next down the line. So until we get to a point where this is where we're definitely going to settle for a while, this is where we want to be
Yeah.
for an extended amount of time. So I don't want to just exclude, a huge chunk of money towards a house that we may not end up buying for 10 years just
Oh,
because
wow.
our life is taking us along to, different places along the
Sure.
way.
That's
So
interesting. Yeah.
I'm looking at my categories now. It's literally called big pile of money. That's what we have. And so that's kind of what we've thought about doing.
That's it. Yeah. because, well, so, you know, we both use YNAB. And so Lindsay and I were going through it, and we've sort of had some of these long-term goals that we weren't quite ready to put into an index fund or into any sort of mutual fund, because some of them were coming up within a year or two. So it just wasn't making sense, all the uncertainty there. But what I noticed was like our checking account, where all our direct deposits and stuff go, kept growing and growing. All that money was allocated, you know, and Lindsay even was looking, I was like, hey, we have this amount of money here, but like, where is it sort of corresponding up to all these sort of categories that we've sort of been saving at? And so it just, to me, it was sort of frustrating, because I was like, I have been saving towards these things, but they're sort of all in the same pot of money, but then that pot of money is not actually working for me, right? Because it's sitting in a 0.001% checking account. But we're in that situation where it's like, hey, if you're going to spend this money in the next year or so, it's sort of hard to put it in the market, because if we would have done that in December, you know, those past 3 weeks, you know, or this past January, everything sort of went.
It's dumb to put it in the market. That really is. If
yeah,
you're
exactly.
With the next 12 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you just sort of keep it in the checking with goals that you have sort of?
Oh yeah. No, that's exactly what we do.
Okay.
I mean, even that big pile of money that I talked about, that thing that we've labeled big pile, is, I mean, it's in my checking account right now, because I haven't, you know, put that into the market or into an index fund or anything like that. I do think it'll go there, you know, within the next few weeks or days, but, yeah, I mean, and then we have anything that's short term, is still in that big old, you know, checking account that we keep. We have, because that's what we do. We have one checking account, and then all of our money is into one account now. And we've talked about in the past how I used to have like different accounts that went to different things. And now that I've started this process of kind of assigning every dollar a job along the way, now I have this big growing checking account, which has got this great big balance on it that I'm looking at. It's really neat. I've never had a checking account with that much money in it, but at the same time, that money is allocated to different things. So, you know, I've got things for the anticipation of taxes that are coming up. I've got things for, you know, a car registration that's 20 months out, because Virginia has 2-year tax or car registration, which is interesting. You know, my Amazon Prime, that's still 10 months away. That money is growing in a category, but it's all sitting in my checking. It's just it's not going to be spent, you know, in the next 10 months. But that is not money, you know, while it's hard to look at that and say, wow, you have a large amount in a checking account, that money could really be working for you, you know, in an investment. But the reality is that's a risk that we're not willing to take on things that are short term that we know we're going to spend it on. I mean, I'm not going to do that. So
sure.
Yeah. So I mean, there ends up being some long-term categories where that money's allocated. And then, you know, short term, like I said, within the next 3 months or whatever, like I just made a category today for furniture upgrades.
Nice.
Just because we've just moved recently, we're here in the new home. We've talked about some things that we want to do. And so we want to, you know, there's some things in the rooms that we definitely want to do, but those are things we want to put money towards eventually and save, and not just go out and be like, ooh, I like that lamp, I'm going to get that lamp right now. Instead, we're going to kind of just approach it with a plan of, okay, this room needs a lamp. Let's be on the lookout for a lamp, and we're putting money towards that.
Yeah.
I mean, not just a lamp, obviously, but, you know, whatever. And so you mentioned the couch. I mean, that was one thing, you know, that's a huge purchase.
Sure.
A big piece of furniture like that.
And it looked really good.
Yeah. Well, it just got delivered yesterday, which was really fun.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
And so I was able to be there and get it in, and it's great. So we really love it. But yeah, I mean, that's a big purchase. But for us, that was something we said, okay, this is something we want to do. we're going to set aside this amount of money. And then we went and looked for couches, and that's kind of how we approached it. So that was a goal within our budget. That was a category that we had set money aside to do. And so, when we went in and bought that, and I bought that at the furniture store, they swiped the debit card, and that's paid for in full.
So with that big pile of money then that you guys have, do you sort of, in all your other investments, do you begin to sort of mentally break that down towards, those purchases? Or like in your head, you're like, okay, we'll take a number like 100,000. So like, yeah, we're at 25K for a down payment. We're at, 25K for a new car or something like that. Like, do you sort of break it down? Because one of the things Lindsay and I were talking about is like, okay, hey, in these entrepreneurial endeavors, I'm going to need to do an infusion of cash at some point in some of these. And it's just sort of been this nebulous cloud of money that we've been really saving and, trying to steward well. But it's like, well, how much should we do? And where's all this other money coming? Or how does that look for you guys? Or is it just in your head sort of?
No, for me, it's written down. And actually in the new YNAB, they have a great goals feature. So you type in a category for, I've got one, a tow hitch for my van. I'm going to put a tow hitch on the van. And I know that thing's going to cost $250 to put on there. And you can click goal and you set an amount that you want that goal, $250. Okay. And you can say when you want it, or if you just want to get to that. And so, and then it color codes it in the budget, and then the progress you're making on it, and it says like, yeah, if you want this by March, you need to put this much to it. It does, it just does the math like a spreadsheet would towards it. But that's the thing is, you can say, oh, we want to do this thing, or we want to buy this product. But the thing is that product has a price tag, and so you can say, what that amount is. And when you want to be able to do it. So if it costs $100 and you want to do it in 2 months, then it's $50 this month and $50 next month.
Yeah. That's
how you buy the $100 product. And you don't buy it any other way unless you put more money earlier or less money later. That's the way you do it. So for otherwise, and that's the thing is, as we've talked about goals in the past, it's you get specific on how you want to do that. And you really, you narrow that down of what you want that to look like. And you can do the research of what a product would cost and, what are different competitors. And maybe you can talk a different salesman down to different things. Then what you're kind of working towards. And then what's realistic. And you can look at, is it realistic to save $50 a month? Or is it realistic to save $500 a month? Depending on your income, those numbers shift a lot. And so, and depending on what's going on, that month, it's hard to do. So,
totally.
And that's the thing is, you can't have, 20 gazillion goals to reach, because as soon as you do that, and even we've started to look at it and said, oh man, we're looking at we're adding to these different things of things we want to reach with our goals or things we want to reach with our money. And now it's like we've got 20 different things that we're trying to aim towards and work towards. And you can't make progress on anything instead of being focused in that approach and saying, this is the next thing we want to accomplish. We're going to put all of our energy towards this. We're going to put all of our extra money towards this. We're going to put all of our, a little bit of savings or a little bit of windfall of money or whatever it is. And we're going to hit towards it. And then, hit that goal that much faster and then move on to the next one. But with 20, it's like, okay, $6 here and $8 here. It's, what are you doing here? What?
That's a great point. Yeah. If you're so divided, and that's interesting because for my own tracking, in our budget, some of these goals that we're teetering on or we haven't firmly set, one is a whitewater kayak for me. Right.
Yeah.
And we have it on there, but we have allocated $0 to it because we're still sort of processing it through. but there's at least like probably 8 or 7 things on there that we're thinking through. Is like, okay, this vacation, a kayak, a couch. We're like, should we upgrade to like an old used SUV for get up in the mountains, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and put our money towards that. But we're not making progress on any of those because it's sort of like when we have money left over when we're planning ahead, we're like, oh yeah, let's throw like those $6 and $8 sort of buckets at it, which is just very minimal progress, and it takes our focus away from the thing that we want to accomplish next month or this quarter or whatever it is.
Yeah, and here's the thing I would say to that is it's not that you shouldn't necessarily list out the multiple things like whitewater kayak on there, awesome. Okay, have whitewater kayak on there. But when you're sitting down with Lindsay and talking it through, it's okay, right now, do we still feel like whitewater kayak is a priority, or is, the four-wheel drive car more of a need? And you know what you can do? You can go back and take the money that you had originally allocated towards whitewater and move it over.
Sure, yeah.
And now you're further along that tour. So I mean, and that's the other thing of having things listed out doesn't mean you have to fund them each and every time.
Yeah.
But the reality is you're not going to make forward progress on everything all the time. You've got to choose those things that you're going to focus on, make huge giant leaps in them, and then get that done. As soon as that thing's completed, that comes off the list. Now you've got other things to focus on.
Great
But
point.
still, it's worth having that talk of, where do we feel? Last month we said whitewater kayak was really good, but you know what we didn't take into account was, this new expense that we came up, or this bill that just came in that we forgot about. And I love the whitewater kayak idea, but honestly, paying this off is more important, or buying this thing, or going on this unscheduled trip that we didn't know about or hadn't thought about.
Sure.
Is more important. So
that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I see we have a few people joining us. So awesome. Hey, welcome.
Yeah.
This is my brother, Blake, and I'm Cameron. We blog at blakeandcameron.com, and we're talking about goals and money. So if you guys have a comment, or tell us what your number one financial goal is right now in the comments. Blake, if you type something in the comments, I think mine sort of froze on the right side, so I can't actually, it's not refreshing on my side of things. So let me know if you send one, because the last thing I see there. Okay, perfect. But if you guys would tell us, your financial goal, if you have a question you'd like to ask us, or that we can sort of bat around, we'd love to do something.
Let them come in too, Cam. I don't know if they can join in, or by all means come online with us.
Yeah, definitely open seat right now. So we also have this tough conversation. It sort of precedes money goals, what we're talking about right now. So to get to some of that nitty gritty, how is going back to Virginia, where you used to live for a little bit, but you sort of, would it be fair to say, since you were last in Virginia, you've doubled down on sort of this new financial paradigm that you're in?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Over the last year, things have really changed a lot with the way I look at money, the way that we treat our financial goals and decisions that we make day to day. Yeah. Okay.
So how do you sort of balance that from, hey, setting these goals, dealing with peer pressure? I know you love your Honda Fit, and you sort of joke around that people make fun of you on driving that. I'm in a tiny little Volkswagen Golf as well. Versus sort of the trend of what you sort of see everyone else doing, and sort of that comparison, or the fear of comparison, or how do you guys sort of handle that right now?
No, it's funny that you asked that, Cam, because actually literally this afternoon I was sitting down and I was just working on a blog post for why I like it when people make fun of my car.
Nice.
And that is one of the things that's changed. Like, I'm coming back into a community that knew me before I had this tiny little car. I drive a Honda Fit, a 2012 Honda Fit. Now it's really tiny from the outside, but it's actually pretty big inside. But it's different than the car I used to drive, which was Toyota 4Runner, big 4-wheel drive SUV, a great truck. I love that thing. I actually was really not regretting. I was really dreading getting rid of it.
Uh-huh.
But we made the decision. Look, we're gonna move from this big SUV down into this smaller car for me, and it's one of those things that now that when people see my car, it actually is a conversation starter. But people make fun of it a little bit jokingly, or like, "Hey, oh, is that a rental car?" or
Yeah.
or things like that. But it makes me actually it reaffirms to me that I'm not making normal decisions. I'm not
Hmm.
being normal, and I like that because it just kind of gives me a boost of confidence because I don't want to be normal because I know what normal is
Preach it. Yeah.
for everybody, And so it's like, so if they're going to make fun of my car, which I got it is a small car. And I used to make fun of people that drive these smaller vehicles around. But the fact of the matter is that for me, I drive that based off of, uh, a look into my own life, a look at my priorities, conversation with my wife, a look at like what we drive and when we drive it and what the needs of our family are, and then balance all that with goals that we have for the future of where we want to go.
Yeah.
Like this small car with great gas mileage that costs very little, that I paid for with cash, that I put money in my pocket after selling my big SUV, like all of these things were helping us reach other goals. And so it just comes down to like people have made fun of my car, but it's it just underlines the fact to me that my priorities are not in what I drive those 5 to 10 miles to work every day is not as important as where I'm leading or where it's helping me, that small car where that's helping me get
Sure.
to other goals that are more important to us. And to that point, that house that we talked about right at the beginning, like that's
Yeah.
one of the things is the money that we're not putting towards travel and gas and insurance and, other things of cost of ownership, that money is being saved and put towards something bigger. And for us, that's something that's really important.
Yeah, that's really good. I think in my or our financial journey and my work journey, sort of veering off the status quo a little bit and doing things a little bit different, it's been really illuminating of like, whoa, this is actually really different. And
Yeah.
and what, I mean, you were sort of hitting it over is like, hey, well, what we've decided to prioritize and our goals and the way we sort of took a critical look at ourselves. So it's like very inwardly focused, right? And then it produces
Yeah.
this sort of change or this sort of countercultural decision to buy a different car or to not do this or to do whatever it might be. So yeah, I think that's huge, and it's interesting. I mean, I was talking to a good friend the other day. Is like, or we even got on the blog, emailed from Mr. 1500, the guy who's trying to retire in 1500 days, and he's almost there. I think he's
Oh
been
yeah.
doing this for a few years, but his email exchange back and forth to me was, this is a lonely journey. There's not many people that are thinking the way that I'm thinking, so I always love to reach out and talk to like-minded individuals because they're sort of far and few between. And I
Yeah.
think it's easier and easier to do that when you are like predicated on, this is the foundation I want my life to be about, and what our
Yeah.
family's trying to do.
Yeah. And I think that's really important is that because it is different. And the fact of the matter is culturally, just like I said, normal, what everybody else is doing is so, um, it is different and it is the majority. And so it's just so much easier to be like, yeah, you're right. Like we could totally, put our money towards that thing or just spend money in this way or spend our time in this way because so many people do it. So you just feel like you're just some kind of almost weirdo for doing something against the grain and
Yeah.
against the norm. So yeah, I think a lonely journey it can be, but it doesn't have to be that way. I think one way that I stay focused on that and stay motivated, despite the fact that not everybody is, going the way that I am, or not everybody's agreeing with some of the decisions I make, is one, my wife and I are on the same page. And so, like, what does it matter what, you think,
Sure.
what you on the internet think, what you as a reader think, what, guy at work who parks next to me in his F-150 thinks? Like, what does it really matter compared to if my wife and I agree, like, this is where we want to head and these are the steps we want to take to get there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's one of those things. And I think that's a little bit of maturity for me in me. I don't think I
Sure.
always felt that way. But, just being a little older, being a little wiser, it comes down to, like, knowing what's more important and accepting what's more important. And it's different than just the words of saying it, but now, like, I actually feel that way.
Yeah. As you're talking too, it's like we've been hammering goals and setting them and the SMART acronym and things like that. But it's just like, I'm just thinking back to 5 years ago, 10 years ago for me, where I'd set like a lofty goal of like, I want to buy a house, or what was another one? Just like, I want to have $25,000 in cash ready to do something awesome with it. And those were just like goals that were really external. They're just like, there was no like sort of, what do I want my life to be, or what am I really going to value? How is that goal really getting there? It was just, this is the goal that everyone is doing, or this sounds like a cool goal, I might as well do it, or I read it in a book. But it's just interesting. I just sort of dawning on me, like how I used to sort of set financial goals or even spend money there, or, just like, it was just like, I set goals. I've always done that, but it's never been rooted in a very internal, hard look at myself, and for Lindsay and I, now that we're doing it together and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think part of that is that intentional step that you've taken to look into that, to actually say, hey, what are the things we really care about and how do we get there? So you've just asked that question and thought through it. I mean, you've taken another step in talking through it with your spouse. And so then you get these tangible things of like, hey, look, this really is important to us. And if it is so important, then we are willing to make changes in our lifestyle in order to help us reach those things.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is, like, we can all, list a million things that we want to do and places we want to go and people want to see and foods we want to eat and, whatever. But like that's just a big list until you say, hey, these couple things are really important to me. And I want to make sure that we, focus in on these and get to it one day. So in order to do that, you've got to take steps to reach those goals. And so, I think that's one of the things that you're talking about is you've done that now with your wife. And so, now you're making decisions that actually leads to changes in what you do, changes in your lifestyle, changes in how you spend money, changes in how you save and manage it. And then also just changes in how you're thinking, like, okay, this is something I want to do. And it begins to influence, other areas of your life.
Yeah, totally. That's the truth. I think that's sort of the journey I know we've been on together with the blog and things like that. Hey, I know we got a few people watching, Scott and Liam. Awesome. Thanks for being here.
What's up, guys?
We got maybe a few more minutes before we're going to close this off. So if anyone wants to hop in and join the conversation, we're just talking about goals, or if you want to, put a question or something in the chat there, we'd love to, tackle any issue. So feel free to do that. What else, Blake?
Yeah. Well, what about you? I mean, what's something that you guys have identified now and said, this is what we want to work towards, and what have you decided to do? How has that affected something else?
Yeah,
do you got something recently?
Yeah, I think, we're making this change with my job. So the one job I've sort of been doing is sort of falling down, collapsing a little bit. And so now figuring out, okay, we've been sort of waiting for this moment. We know it's sort of been coming, but now here's sort of the hard truth, the hard moment of, we got to make this choice and put the money to this, or really, like you sort of said, we got this money here, so let's allocate it to what we're actually going to do and not do something different. So yeah, it's been an interesting 2016. I see, Elijah, that you're wanting to hop on, so let's go ahead and bring you in and see what you may want to say. But yeah, it's been a very interesting past few weeks, I think, for us, but really just a lot of learning overall. So
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing good, man.
Thanks for joining us. What you got?
What do you mean? What I got? What you got, bro?
Yeah, you got anything you want to share in particular?
Just stopping in, saying hello.
Cool.
No, yeah, we appreciate it, dude. Hey, Elijah, what we've been talking about is just kind of like, the importance of actually setting a goal and how that ends up changing, what you do. Have you experienced anything like that, or is that a different kind of concept? What do you think?
Definitely. The goal setting is pretty important. I think that, more important than a goal though is like having I don't know. I think a vision is really important. Like just thinking to yourself, in 20 years, I'm going to be on a yacht with, a bunch of babes. I think that's a little more important than a solid goal. I don't know why, but I think if you gradually work towards like the big picture, you'll see a lot more improvement versus just small goals after small goals after small goals,
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I think that's good. I think what I would challenge that kind of thinking with is, how do you eventually get to that long-term thing, that thing that's way off in the future, if you don't have something that's, even short-term, like a way towards it? How do you eventually, like for you, the yacht with babes, how do you eventually get there without, some small step, which may be, a certain amount of money or knowing a certain amount of girls that you would invite to this yacht that you already have?
I guess you just kind of, I don't know. I just kind of figure everything out as I go. Like, I really don't think ahead more than probably 2 weeks at a time. I just kind of live life, make decisions when they come, because I feel like too many people kind of focus on goal setting focusing on goal setting is fine, but I think a lot of people focus too much time on it, like to the point where it doesn't really do anything for them. They just kind of sit there and they spend a little too much time saying like, because you can say I'm going to sign 10 clients this month, but its numbers are kind of meaningless. Like you can go through and say, oh, that's going to take me 500 calls, but then when you actually get down to it, it might take you 10,000 calls, and you're just going to disappoint yourself there.
Yeah, interesting.
Go ahead, Cam.
Well, yeah, I just think that what I've learned in my past few years is that I sort of had that similar mentality, is that, just take it a little bit at a time, go like this. But what I found is I look back at a year or 2 years and realize that, wow, I had a lot more capability than I realized. I had a lot more potential to do something than I realized, and that my sort of taking it and rolling with the punches all the time was not really making me make progress in the things I wanted to do, like start my own business, like leave my job in the Army. Like it was just like, oh yeah, when the time's right, that'll happen, that sort of thing. And so what I've learned from my like really intentional goal setting, like you said, a lot of people just sort of talk about it, but like if you really narrow that down and really take the time to figure out, hey, what do I want out of my life for this next year, and make some hyper-specific goals, it's been mind-blowing what I found. And of course, you can't just say, I'm going to make 15 goals, and they could be lofty and sound great to everyone, but they got to sound great to you. They got to be, hey, by the end of the year, I sort of want to be at this spot and doing this thing. Hey, Daniel, what are some of your thoughts? I know you're down there, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I just saw Elijah's on here, which is super cool, but I just know that he's already doing some awesome stuff in the money-making realm, so I thought that was cool just seeing him talk to you guys. But I think as far as setting goals, it's kind of like what Elijah was saying, but I wouldn't really say, but also like, what would you do with the money if you had it in the first place? Like, because because so many people are like, okay, I need to make $500 a month because that's enough to pay my debt. But if you actually if you're not willing to commit to doing something with the money in the first place, creating something, then what's the point of it? And it becomes trivial. So I think like not just having like either a goal or a vision, but also having like a dream or something that other people can contribute to. Like, this is what I want to create. Like for me, I'm creating money to help send a team of therapists out to help people in Jamaica. So for me, it's like everything I'm doing is kind of aiming towards that, as well as like a huge, it's a multi-$100,000 project to send a full team of care therapists out there. So it's like, yeah, if you had $100 million every year to spend, what would you spend it on? And just ask yourself that question, and what would you commit to actually creating?
No, that's great. I mean, I think that's a great question to even ask. One, it's a huge amount of money for anybody to even think through. And I guess you could throw any number onto that question of, if you had, even just $100,000 that just fell into your lap, what would you spend it on?
Yeah.
And that's a good activity to even work through with, your spouse, if you're married, or, or just to think through with yourself, to have that kind of idea. But I think the fact of the matter is, like, Daniel, what you were even saying is, like, just the activity of even thinking through that is so important, because if it's only going to be, I'm just going to go see what happens and just play it as it goes and fly by the seat of my pants. Like, you can get by at a certain degree, but I do think you're right, Cameron. What you're saying is, like, you do miss out on a little bit of, or potentially a lot of potential of what you could have done by maximizing some resources or taking advantage of certain things that came about because you had something that you were working towards, instead of what feels good today, or how do I feel like it, or even I don't feel like doing anything, whatever, because that end state that you've thought through can be a motivator, to make you take a necessary step.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, Daniel, what do you think? What's one financial goal? You don't have to give the number or anything if you don't have one, but what's one goal that you want by the end of the year?
By the end of this year, I do want to somehow raise enough money for that trip. So
Okay.
I don't know. So that it's going to take a lot more than just what I can do. So
Sure.
But I have a couple therapists who've already decided that they will go if I can raise the money. So it's going to be. So probably
That's awesome,
probably my goal for the year is to make at least 100K, but I don't know.
So raise 100K for that. That's great. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm also curious, Elijah, how much you actually made last year.
I don't know. Why do you want to know?
Because you're fascinating.
SCEP Light in the comments, and he'll tell you. He's my business partner.
Okay, I see. What?
But one of our goals is $20,000 MRR by the end of May. So
Awesome. Hey, Elijah, so can you give a recap of sort of what you do and you said your business goal is 20,000 MRR, but what business are you running, man?
we generate leads for search engine optimization companies. So, we're kind of a software company, I guess, because the leads are based off of data mining, and we deliver them daily, and people really like them. They're trigger evented leads. So basically they're businesses who need SEO now, and we find that out by finding companies who recently dropped out of Google for their major keywords. So like we might have a dentist in Milwaukee who was ranking 3rd, and out of nowhere they dropped to the 2nd or 3rd page. So now SEO company can just give them a call and tell them, hey, you're going to lose a lot of money unless you let us fix this for
Got
you.
it.
So for you, Elijah, let me ask you this. So you've got a goal of 20,000 by May. I mean, so there's a somewhat of a long-term, if you want to call it, or short-term goal. But have you and your partner talked about, okay, what do we got to do to reach that? Like,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think that goes back to kind of what we were talking about right at the beginning when you hopped in, was was kind of like, okay, now you've got the larger thing, and May is not, super into the future, but for you, that's your big goal that you're reaching towards right now. And so that then now you've backed that up to say, okay, now what do we need to do that? And what do we need to do by the end of February? And you've got that number in the back of your head. And now it's, okay, what do I need to do this week in order to help us reach that goal by the end of February? And so, like, the fact that you even have set that 20,000 number is giving you something to work towards. Okay, you may hit it, you may completely exceed it, which would be money, but either way, you've got something that you're working towards. But without that, if you just said, yeah, I run an SEO business, and we just work really hard, like, I don't know that you would know necessarily what you're working towards, each step. And so I think, you've already naturally done, some of that thing that we were talking about right at the beginning, which is kind of like you've set something concrete that you want to work towards. And maybe it's a little bit of a reach, maybe it's not, but either way, what you have to do next in order to make sure you're on the right step. And of course, it's up to you and your partner to kind of hold each other accountable of, hey, you're not doing enough to reach it. I'm not doing enough. I'm being really lazy. I really need to make this call. If I don't make this call, then I'm not, tracking down this lead. Then I'm not making progress towards what we need to reach.
Yeah, I think, and to sort of hop on that is like what I found, man. Awesome goal, love it, and you're doing awesome stuff for being 17. It seems good stuff. But the power of our time and the lack of time we have. We got 24 hours. You're going to sleep some. You're going to talk to people. You're going to eat. And like in my own entrepreneurial endeavors, I have many a time. My wife comes home from work. I'm sitting here. She's like, "Hey, what have you done today?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't really know what I did today because I woke up. I got on the computer. I started hustling and doing my thing, but without like those sort of specific like benchmarks." I was realizing I wasn't making nearly as much progress as I thought I could, or maximizing the use of my time, because it's a limited quantity, and you can either be on Blab doing something, or making more money, or talking to the person you need to talk to, or establishing this relationship, or meeting a therapist for you, Daniel, and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I come home from school every day at 10:23 to work on business. I'm in a school to work program, so I have to fill out a work log every day that describes what I did and how many hours I worked. So it's kind of relates to the when your wife asks you what you did for the day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great accountability, actually. No, it really is. I mean, you've got somebody that's almost checking your work a little bit, and it's. So you can either make something up that you're going to write down, or know that, hey, I've got this opportunity to move forward and continue down the road of progress towards what you're working towards. So, I mean, I think that's sweet. That's a great program too. But without it, I mean, otherwise your goal would be write something down so my teacher or the counselor, whoever's checking that work, just gets off my back. I mean, okay, there might be somebody in that program who's also achieving that low standard. But if you have an opportunity to reach a higher standard, it sounds like you're taking advantage of it. So it's pretty sweet.
Cool. Well, hey, let's go around real quick. Hey, just one sentence. What's your takeaway? We're gonna wrap it on up. We'll start with you, Daniel. What's one thing we've helped you or you've learned right now are going to implement?
I just think being clear on your direction, just the reminder of that has been good, and also just been getting a lot of your enthusiasm. So I enjoyed that.
Awesome. Hey, well, thanks for hopping on. We appreciate you, man, for sure. Elijah, anything from you, man?
Work hard, play hard.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Good luck. Blake?
Yeah. Hey, no, I appreciate it, Cam. I think the clarity in which that you can see where you want to go. So it's to really think about what you want that future to look like and be specific about it. So if it's a particular thing you want to buy or a particular goal you want to reach in your business, then be specific and move forward. But But the fact of the matter is, tomorrow the world will change, your life will change, your priorities may change, and you can change that future goal if you really want to. So you're not, by saying 20,000 MMR by May, or by saying, you know, X number of therapists by the end of the year, those are ideal. But whether or not you hit that isn't going to make or break you. Like if you decide in the next 6 months that that's not where I want to go anymore, then change your stinking goal. It's not written in stone, but move on forward towards something else, and then take those resources you've gained or lessons you've learned and apply it towards what's next. I guess it's just, I just don't want to get too stuck in something that I said, you know, oh, on January 1st when I made this, I have to stick towards this. I mean, I can change. And that being said, I can also make something new that I want to go towards, you know, starting tomorrow, which is February 1st, I think. So that's mine, Cam.
Awesome. Yeah.
Can I tag on that?
Yeah,
totally,
Daniel, go.
I'll just also, like, it's not also necessarily like what the goal specifically is, but also like what does that goal mean to you, or how does it make you feel?
Yeah.
Totally.
Because that will probably stay the same even if the specifics change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, that's the other thing is, like, I'm not saying, you know, oh, I don't feel like it today, so that's no longer important. The fact of the matter was when I sat down and said, I want to reach this goal, like, that was really important to me for a reason. Like, it was important enough for me to either write it down or to talk to somebody about it or talk to my business partner about it or whatever. Like, that needs to be taken into account when you're going through it. And I think, and like you said, Daniel, like, and that's something you can go back to and say, yeah, this really was important, because bottom line, there's going to be days when you don't feel like making progress towards that thing. You just want to hang out, or you just want to slack off, or you just want to be distracted by something else. So that's a great point.
Yeah. And I think, Daniel, you sort of hit on my sort of one sentence takeaway is, hey, it starts with looking at what you want out of your life and what you want out of your time. And so once you know those values and your priorities and you sort of have that foundation, you're going to be able to set goals that are realistic and that are going to get you to where you want to be long term. Hey, Daniel, thanks for hopping on, man. Really great insight. Good luck to you on raising that 100K by the end of the year. You should let us know how that goes, okay? Because
that'd be sweet.
It sounds like you're doing awesome stuff down there for Jamaica. But that's my brother Blake, and I'm Cameron. We blog at blakeandcameron.com. I'll go ahead and put the link right there in the comments. But this is the stuff we tackle in our blog. We host blabs just like this one, where we try to get real, try to get personal, and have the tough conversations that are sort of sometimes murky to figure out. So consider signing up for the email list. We'd love to do that. We shoot a weekly email out, and this is what we're all about. So thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. Any last words from you, Blake?
Nope. Yeah, appreciate it. I mean, I just think, like we say online, is, you know, you want your values to dictate where your most precious resources go, where your time, where your money goes. You want that to align with your values, and that's what we want to do. We want to help you out with that. So, yeah, thanks. It's been great. Appreciate you having me on, Cam, and Daniel and Elijah. Good to be with you guys too. Have a good one.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night, guys. Bye.